It was just like a high school Navy game or something. And he was like, yo, you hungry? And I guess it was Russian. You know, I'm just wondering, like, how it was how actually
Hi, everyone. Okay, welcome back. Please sign into the attendance. Any questions before we get started? So just a preview of the schedule. We are almost halfway done with the semester, if that's even possible. It's true. So if you notice, next class, the 13th, Monday, I only assigned one case, and that was sort of deliberate. The second half of class, I want to sort of talk about the exam, in particular the midterm that will be coming up. So that's why the reading's a little bit lighter than usual. You're welcome. But that's to sort of give me more time to sort of catch up on today's material, which is heavy, and also to prepare for the midterm. On the 14th, I'm sorry, on class 14, that is the 5th, this is the last class for spring break. Please come, don't skip it. You always skip this class, it's a mistake. I'm going to give a practice midterm. Now, I'm not actually going to give you anything. I'm not going to hand it out. I will pick one of my old midterms. I'm not sure which one. You have to decide it. I'll tell you next week. And I'll say, answer these two questions in class. I'll give you an hour. And then the second hour, I will go over it with you all. The reason why I do this in candor is feedback that's timely is better than feedback that's more particularized. In the past, I've actually given a midterm, and it takes me weeks and weeks and weeks to grade. And by the time you get it back, frankly, you kind of forgot what the question was, and you don't remember it. I just found it's not a useful experience. So I will give you, on the spot, a question. We'll go over it right away. Ask whatever questions you want. We can talk about it afterwards. But I found this is a more effective approach than the giving the midterm, then spending 3 weeks grading it, and then whatever. What I used to do, which I can never do again, is I would make every student meet with me one-on-one over the midterm. It took me almost the entire semester because we have 2 sections, 80. Your class is actually a little bit smaller. Almost 150, 160 people. Like I would be here on the weekends from like 9 till 9 all day long, and for some people it's really meaningful. Those people need the help the least. The people who came were the A's and the B students, and the C's and the D students didn't come, and that's what it was almost perverse. It wasn't the attention I was giving wasn't going to those who actually needed it the most, so I stopped doing it. So I will go over the midterm in class on the day before spring break, and then when we get back from spring break, we'll start the 14th Amendment topic. Okay? Everyone okay with that? Everyone understand the schedule? Okay, very good. All right, so let's just start with a question. Question number 1, short answer. Okay, so the question is this. In the first zone of Justice Jackson's concurrence, courts review the government's action with a presumption of fill in the blank, please. Okay. Okay, another 15 seconds or so. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop it here. Let's see. Word cloud. Give me an answer. Good. Most of you spelled it correctly. Constant. Okay, right. I think you all got it correct. Very good. Everything that's written here is more or less correct. More or less. The answer here is presumption of constitutionality. What's a presumption of constitutionality? The presumption of constitutionality, so the court says, we're going to presume the law is valid, unless the challenger, the steel nail, proves otherwise. The government can probably get away with it. There's the opposite of a presumption of constitutionality. It's what Randy Barnett calls a presumption of liberty. That is, the presumption is the government loses, right? That the individual prevails, that the individual claim for freedom, for property, and so on wins. So you have these 2 different kind of approaches. You can have a court presuming the law is constitutional, or you can have the court presuming the law is unconstitutional. And depending which sort of presumption you use, it dictates the outcome of the case. At least in the first tier of Youngstown, there's a presumption of constitutionality. But if you go down to the third tier of Youngstown, it's actually just the opposite. The court reviews it with a very searching inquiry, a lot of scrutiny, if you will. Right? Here's our graphing again. The court scrutinizes it with caution. The court saying, we're not sure if the government's acting lawfully here. So again, in zone 1, you have this presumption of constitutionality. And then in zone 3, you have this strict scrutiny, where you scrutinize it very cautiously. Everyone get the difference between 1 and 3. Okay. Now let's try to combine Korematsu with Youngstown. Again, Korematsu was 1944, whereas Youngstown was several years later. So it's sort of almost a historical, anachronism. It doesn't actually fit. But if Korematsu was decided after Youngstown, how would we characterize Executive Order 9066? What zone would it fall into? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? It's also a choice question. The poll's running. On the phone, please. For the first time ever, look at your phones, not me. Okay. All right, another 5 seconds or so. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see what we got. If I'm going to put D, I'm going to be mad. Good. No, put D. Okay, 75%. I can live with that. 25% not. The answer here is C. And the reason why is we look at. Hold on, wait a minute. Korematsu. Wait, hold on. No, actually. Yeah, hold on. I'm sorry, you said 3 and I just inverted my head. No. This is not right. Yeah, no, this is not right at all, actually. You guys are backwards. It's actually, the answer is 1. No, hold on. Yeah, no, I just, because you said C, I was like, yeah, C. No, it's actually the opposite. So think of it this way, right? Congress declared war on Japan, right? And Congress passed legislation that funded the internment camps. Congress was well aware of what was going on, and they gave Roosevelt lots of authorities. They paid the salaries of people working at those camps. They paid for those buses that were transporting people across the country, right? In every sense, Congress was supporting what Roosevelt was doing. Conrad?
Was it then the third case where it would be zone 3, the one where it was like the detention was unconstitutional?
Well, that's endo, right? I'll get to endo in a minute. Stephen?
Like, I mean, I do understand why it's 1 when you look at it like it was the president and Congress working together, but like I put 3 because like I thought we strictly scrutinized racial classifications, so wouldn't that automatically put it into?
Was Youngstown about race?
But aren't we looking at Korematsu?
No, but was the Youngstown framework based on racial classifications? It was about the interaction between Congress and the president.
No, it wasn't on race. Youngstown wasn't.
Let me try question number. Let's do question number 4. Actually, that might actually shed light on question number 2. Okay, question number 4. To fall into the first tier of Justice Jackson's framework in Youngstown, Congress must pass a statute that expressly authorizes the president's actions. Is that statement true or is that statement false? This one I think might actually shed light on what happened with number 2. And I'll come back to question 3 for Stephen's question. I'll do them out of order. By the way, this is why I hate PowerPoint. When you're in PowerPoint land, you can't go out of order. I can go whatever order I want with these. Makes life a lot easier. All right, another 10 seconds. Let's see how this one went. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So about 80% of you said this is false. That is correct. Okay. The key word here is expressly. Expressly. Did Jackson say it must be express? It could also be, what's the opposite of express? Same as McCulloch, right? Implied. So Jackson's first tier, his first zone, is flexible. Again, Jackson was not a formalist. He didn't like formal rules. He was very much a pragmatist. So what Jackson said in the first tier, we can look at what Congress has done expressly, but we can also look at what Congress has done impliedly. That's a word, I promise, impliedly, the opposite of expressly. So for example, the fact that Congress funded the camps and they funded the relocation of those people, that's pretty good evidence that Congress was supporting it. If not expressly, they did so impliedly. Which would seem to say that Executive Order 9066 under Youngstown would be in the first zone of Jackson. But we know that Jackson dissented in Korematsu. He dissented vigorously. So Stephen, I'll come back to you. Why did Jackson dissent? Was it about Congress and the president? Is that what triggered his dissent in Korematsu?
It was about the race.
Correct. Correct. And this is question number 3. Stephen, want to just answer for me? How should the Supreme Court review racial classifications? Yes. So I'm going to blow your minds in a minute, right? Every single question in this class from this day forward has been looked at in 2 different angles. One, structural, right? Separation of powers. Is there an enumerated power? Does it belong to Congress or the president, right? It's the structural part of the Constitution. Number 2, rights, equality, liberty. Does this classify you based on your race? The exact same law is reviewed through 2 different lenses. You first look at it from the structural perspective, and then you look at it from the rights perspective. So for example, in Korematsu, Congress and the president were on the same page. We are squarely in zone 1 there. Those are racial classification to the use strict scrutiny. So the structural stuff says this is kosher, this is okay, right? But the rights stuff, the 14th Amendment stuff, says that might not be constitutional. And we know in Korematsu they upheld it. That's a different story, right? Does everyone see that? The exact same Korematsu issue is both structurally, does the president have this power to do it? And rights. Is this a violation of the 14th Amendment? Does this deprive people of equal protection? Even though there's no equal protection clause in the 5th Amendment, we'll just pretend there is for now. We'll get to that one later. Does everyone see the difference of those 2 questions? So Stephen, you are correct. In Korematsu, they basically applied strict scrutiny because of the racial classification. But my question was different. With regard to the separation of powers, Congress and the president were on the same page. That means it's okay structurally, but it fails from a rights perspective. Everyone see that? This is not an easy concept. This is why this class, I structure, no pun intended, I divide it to break at spring break. The first half of the semester is all the structural cases. After spring break, it's all the rights cases about the 14th Amendment. In many law schools, not ours, it's actually 2 separate classes. You have Con Law 1, which is structural constitution, and Con Law 2 is the 14th Amendment. And then you have another class in the First Amendment. That comes later, right? I go back and forth whether we should break them apart. I kind of like it like this because I can teach you all at once. I can show you these 2 pieces relate. It'll be very hard for me to teach Korematsu in Youngstown without talking about the 5th Amendment and these structural. It's hard to sort of do it separate. I've done it that way. It's tricky. Conrad.
Does that structural and rights distinction only apply in the discussion of separation of powers and like the executive authority, or does that also stretch back?
Every case, right? Every case you look at, any exam question you look at, you have to think both. Does the government have the power to do this, number 1? And number 2, does this action run afoul of the 14th Amendment? Does it deprive you of due process? Does it violate equal protection? Does it infringe on some other liberty that's protected by the Due Process Clause? right? So many cases you have to do both. I'll say this. This is, by the way, Justice Scalia makes this point in his dissent from Morrison. The Bill of Rights is fluff. All this liberty stuff, it's fluff. What matters is the structure, right? The structure matters. Scalia would always say you have to go to these third world countries with these beautiful bills of rights. You want to go to see a good Bill of Rights? Go to the Soviet Union. They had a really good Bill of Rights. Protected all these rights. Meaningless paper, parchment barriers. This is not what the paper is printed on. It's the structure that protects our freedoms. And that's actually what Morrison v. Olson, I think, gets across, as well as Seila Law. It's the structure that matters, not the rights, whatever. That stuff comes and goes. Doesn't matter much. It's limitation on structural power is what actually protects people. Bill of Rights is fluff. Got it. You have to write that in your notes. It's true. Okay. So everyone get questions 1 through 4. Everyone understand those. Anything 1 through 4. I didn't have order, but the sequencing worked out. What do you got for number 5? All right, let's call on someone for this one. Who's next? Are you next? Who's last?
I didn't go last class. Oh, I talked.
Oh, come on, guys. I need Conrad. I'll just start with you, Conrad. We'll start over again. Conrad, what is gloss? What is a gloss? I'm not talking about cosmetics. What's gloss?
It's like a covering, a protective coat, and in this context, it's when the court is, or it's when a president is taking an action, they're putting like a gloss on the authority that they have under the Constitution to allow them to do that kind of action again.
Correct. Right. So when we talk about executive power, the Article 2 lists some stuff, but not very much. It doesn't tell us very much. And the court has said when we're trying to define what the executive powers are, we look what has been done in the past. What did George Washington do? John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and so on. And when there's a long-standing practice, where presidents have done something and Congress didn't reject it. By the way, that's kind of Youngstown, isn't it? When a president does something and Congress doesn't fight back, that suggests the president actually has that power. It's really Youngstown 1, if you think about it, right? President does X, and Congress either doesn't say no, or they say, okay, that's fine, go along with it. It creates basically a gloss on the Constitution, an extra layer of constitutional meaning. And that's how we define what the president's powers are. Yes, Michael?
But like, that like gloss concept's not limited to just the executive power, right? Like you could gloss almost anything.
Can you gloss legislative power?
No.
Well, oh, don't say no. Why are you saying no? I'm asking a question.
I mean, I guess you could if you just start saying this is an okay thing to legislate.
I mean, look, think about federal power. Think about, the New Deal. When Congress starts enacting all these laws regulating everything, including local wheat and local products, that might suggest Congress has that power. Is there gloss on the judicial power? You better believe it. The court does stuff now they never did before. Every branch of government, I'm going to use the word aggrandizes, right? They concentrate more power in their branch. It happens. And if there's no pushback, then that becomes part of the law itself. For John Marshall, it's easy. There was no law. It's brand new. Everything was a blank slate. Now we got a lot of stuff that's built up. These weeds that need to be pruned. Everyone with me? Okay. Bobby, which branch of government can pay just compensation?
The legislative.
Correct. How do you know that?
Because they have the power to do all the debts and the House is the power of the purse.
Yes, exactly right. So this came up in Youngstown, right? If you seize property, you have to pay compensation. Can the president pay compensation? No, he has no power of the purse. The power of the purse belongs to the legislature. Therefore, Congress decides whether to seize property, and that means the president can't exercise that power. Brian, what is Twilight? Not the vampire movie, please. No. What is Twilight?
It's the zone that falls between 1 and 3, where it's like something that's both the executive and the legislative power, but not just the executive power. But it's really not.
Correct.
There's not an example.
Yeah, this concept of the zone of twilight is Robert Jackson saying, like shrugging emoji, right? We don't really know, right? We don't know what Congress's powers are. We don't know what the president's powers are. And he won't really tell you what to do here. He says everything we decided, fact-based, case-by-case example. You don't want to be in the zone of twilight. If you're government, you want to be in zone 1. And if you're the challenge,